I'm just going to say this is very promising for the future of Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade. Now, I know Global is not in the best spot right now, but this is absolutely amazing because a lot of the OG General Pool units have been buffed. Also, Yuta and the Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade 0 characters have been buffed as well, and a lot of people on Global went all in for Yuta and potentially Geto as well. So a lot of people have the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 characters, so the fact that they are getting buffed on JP is absolutely massive because those buffs will be coming to Global sooner than they came to JP. It took over a year for them to come to JP. We are going to be catching up, obviously, so we're going to get those buffs so much quicker. So this is definitely something to look forward to when it comes to the future of the game. So a bunch of characters got buffed. We're going to go over what those buffs are right now, and maybe in the future we'll do a more updated video where we go more in depth if that's something you guys are interested in. But this was literally just put out on the community Discord. I think they're actually still in the process of translating it, which is crazy. It's already out on the JP site as well, but the translations there weren't as good, so I did wait for most of these translations to be done because this is much more helpful here. But if you guys want to go look at it on the JP website with pictures of those characters, that will be linked down in the description below for the JP website. Now, to start with, the very first character that we have here is Red Panda. Red Panda has not released on Global yet, but he probably will be releasing fairly soon, I imagine, within this month or next month. And so his skill 1 is damage was increased, also scales on cursed energy now for damage, which is cool. And skill 2, damage reduction, now scales on cursed energy as well. His skill 3, taijutsu, increases and now scales with the Carpus count. Healing effect is slightly buffed, which is good. Like, all these are, every single thing you guys are about to see is a massive buff for characters, right? You might not care as much about the Red Panda buff because you haven't seen him in game yet, but like, just know that if he does come out and you do pull him on Global at some point in time, he will be getting buffed in the future, right? So that's massive. His ultimate damage increase can get up to 80% damage boost after having received 7 attacks. Wording was slightly changed too. And then his auto skills gets damage boost when getting hit up to 7 times. That's pretty good for a tank to get more damage as they get hit. That's pretty cool. Red Toto, the general pool Toto from the start of the game, right, enters zone state now when performing a black flash. This is actually really good because this is a big buff for him damage wise. It increases his crit rate by 20% for 3 turns. I wish they'd done a little bit more to him, but I'm still happy with this because an extra 20% crit rate for every black flash performed is absolutely massive. And then Blue Megami, his skill, like, everything got changed. All these characters, like, a lot of things got changed. It's insane. His skill 1, increased damage and break damage when totality is active. Also, he ignores darkness. His skill 2 increases damage, stun chance, and extra damage and break damage with totality. His skill 3 costs 20 cursed energy now, which I believe is lowered, and it does extra damage. And then his ultimate ult gauge amount is reduced, so it doesn't take as much to get his ultimate. It increases the break damage as well as increased damage and break damage if totality is already active. Ult damage is now the same whether totality is present or not when using it, which is amazing. And then his auto skill, extra damage reduction when totality is present, 40% ult charge rate when totality is not present, and 20% when it is, extra damage dealt during break status. These are massive buffs for Blue Megami. It actually makes him a halfway decent character. Like, this is very, very good. The tier lists, the JP tier lists at least, are going to change massively, and whenever we get this update on Global, it's going to change the tier list massively, right? Unfortunately, I wish they could just push this update out on Global at the same time, but that's not going to happen, right? And then we got Blue Toto. I cannot wait for this Toto to come to the game. This Toto is not in the game yet for Global, but obviously out on JP. His skill 1, increased damage. Damage boost now scales off of Takata-chan guidance count instead of HP. Skill 2, costs 20 cursed energy now if Takata State is not active. Takata State lasts for 4 turns instead of however many turns it was before. And then Taijutsu damage is up for 2 turns if Takata State is active. Skill 3 costs 15 cursed energy if Takata State is not active. Damage boost scales on Takata count instead of HP up to 80%. The ultimate damage is increased. Damage scales with Takata count, grants ultimate gauge recovery after using ultimate. Taijutsu up and damage upscale up to 62% with Takata count. HP recovery increased. Ult grants 3 Takata count on use as well. The auto skill can enter zone state when boyfriend is performed, which is another 20% crit rate for 3 turns, and gets 2 counts of Takata at the start of battle. So this is a massive buff for this character, a character that was very not good for a long time. So I'm so excited that Toto's, like, this Toto at least got a massive buff. The other Toto got a buff that wasn't quite as big, but it's still a buff, right? Now we get into more of the characters that we see right now on Global, and I'm excited to go over these. Okay, so we got those characters out of the way. Let's do the fun ones now. So starting with Kamo, who was kind of a sleeper character. Not a lot of people have him, but he seemed interesting to me when I tried him out on JP when I did my showcase, and his ultimate was very good. But the biggest problem with him was his red scale only lasting 3 turns. Now it's going to last 5 turns, which is insane. So skill 1, damage is increased and further increased during red scale. So that means now the skill 1's actually going to be useful. And then his skill 2, red scale, lasts for 5 turns, provides an extra damage buff and jujutsu buff on top of the regular stackable buffs, all of which last 5 turns. That is amazing. Extra damage and jujutsu on top of the other jujutsu and taijutsu buffs that were already there. That's really good for him. The skill 3 costs 15 cursed energy now. That's massive. Outside of red scale, increased damage during red scale as well. So having that extra damage during red scale, because it's an AoE on skill 3, it could be very, very good for him. So massive buffs for Kamo. I think a lot of people are going to like that. I'm so glad to see that the skill 3 got buffed there though, damage wise. So I'm hoping that we'll actually have a pretty decent AoE character with blue Kamo. That'll be really, really sick. The SR Maki, this is the, I believe, Jujutsu. Yeah, this is the JJK 0 Maki, the free to play one. Skill 1, increased damage, also gets damage boost based on own HP now. And then skill 2, increased damage and break damage, now has a 3-turn cooldown. And skill 3, increased damage, damage and enemy taijutsu down, both scale with own HP. Then the ultimate, increased damage, adding HP scaling. And the auto added heavenly restriction, which is 20% taijutsu, 1.5% HP recovery at the start of each turn, and 4.5% damage reduction. So a lot of buffs for her. Next we have SR Inamaki. I really actually rated this character and thought he was fairly decent. As an SR character for the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 characters, I would say he was probably the best. Well, they have made him even better. So he on skill 1 has extra increased damage now and more taijutsu down. His skill 2 costs 25 cursed energy. Counter has been changed now to 2 turns for 2 times, which is you know, a lot better than the 1 time that you had before. And then gives damage reduction to self for 2 turns. When an enemy gets countered, they get reduced taijutsu and take more damage from blue for 2 turns as well. That's also a big buff because they're going to take more damage from blue type allies for 2 turns now when they get countered. That's going to help a lot. The skill 3 costs 15 cursed energy and it has increased damage as well. The ultimate has increased damage, and then the auto skill HP recovery triggers at 55% or less instead of 35% now. That's helpful as well. Next up we have SR Panda. Skill 1, increased damage, critical hit rate, and damage. Skill 2, more taijutsu damage taken for the enemy, higher critical hit rate and damage overall. Skill 3 costs 20 cursed energy, increased damage, increased crit rate, and damage. Like, all you could do with this Panda, because that's all he does is just damage. So at least they increased his damage, because he was pretty lackluster when it came to his damage. How much did they increase his damage? We'll have to wait for the wiki to be updated. So like, yes, we're going over like all the kit changes, but we don't know like exactly how much better it makes the characters. That's why when the characters on the wiki get updated, it'll be a little bit better because we get to see how much better they are. But then the ultimate for this Panda, increased damage, crit rate, and damage. Auto skill has revival 1 time, increases taijutsu by 35% for 1 turn when cursed energy is 40 or above. That I think those buffs were severely needed for Panda, so that's really, really good. Next up, we have Green Itadori, the general pool Itadori that everybody pretty much has at this point. So skill 1, increased damage and black flash rate, because we didn't have enough of that. Skill 3, increased damage, black flash rate, crit resistance down to the enemy, and reduced cursed energy cost by 25. No skill 2 change, interesting. The ultimate, they did increase damage. This is what I wanted to see. Increased damage and critical damage, increased black flash damage on first hit as well. That's massive. This ult needed the increased damage because like when I was using this Itadori in Illusory Tower, he just could not compete with other characters, other green characters, especially like Hollow Purple Gojo in terms of damage. And as an attacker unit, he should be able to somewhat compete in damage. So that's going to help him out a lot. And then he has the auto skill, added zone state when boyfriend is performed, 100% boyfriend rate, and 30% tight boyfriend. I call it boyfriend up above for, oh my gosh, I'm tired, guys. It is 1 a.m. in the morning. Holy crap. Okay, added zone state when black flash is performed. Holy moly. Okay, so when I read that for Toto earlier, I'm sorry, I was wrong. 100% black flash rate and 30% taijutsu for 3 turns and recovers 5 cursed energy per turn. That is actually big. The zone state is very big as well. Wow, just Itadori is going to hit so much harder now. That's amazing. That's really, really good. Then we have Green Panda, the tank slash attacker, right? Skill 1, increased damage and break damage while in gorilla mode. Skill 2, added ultimate gauge charge rate for 2 turns when not in gorilla mode, and damage reduction for 2 turns when in gorilla mode. That's actually really good. And then skill 3 costs 25 cursed energy and increases damage in gorilla mode. Let's go. I'm really excited about skill 2 though, being that we now have ultimate gauge charge rate in addition to drawing aggro. The ultimate can increase ult gauge during gorilla mode, but can't use ult. Increased damage and break damage and recovers cursed energy every turn during gorilla mode. Auto when ult gauge is filled in gorilla mode, it is consumed to give 100% taijutsu and 50% damage. Yo, okay, yo, that's massive. I was like, why are they filling his ultimate gauge when he's just stuck in gorilla mode? Like, it doesn't make sense if he can't ult, but now it makes sense. And it recovers cursed energy form. Oh man, that's actually, yo, that's sick. That's so cool. All right, that might be one of my favorite changes so far. That's really, really cool. Then we have Green Anatomy. Skill 1, multiplier increased from 72% and 72% to 90 and 90%. Skill 3, small multiplier increase. Ultimate multipliers go from 451 to 640%. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then the auto skill zone state when hitting a black flash increases black flash rate by 200%. Okay, Nanami. For 4 turns, recovers 5 cursed energy. Overtime 30% skill damage is now permanent. Was 1 time before. Oh, that's tasty. When hitting a crit or black flash, there's a 50% chance to get 30% jujutsu buff for 4 turns, 30% taijutsu buff for 4 turns as well. Ultimate gauge was reduced, so it's not as hard to get his ultimate, and max cursed energy was increased. A lot of really good buffs for Nanami. Holy moly. And then Maki, the yellow Maki. Skill 2, increased damage and break damage increase on the enemy. Yeah, that's good because the skill 2 is his best skill, so more damage on that. Perfect. Skill 3, cost 0 cursed energy now, but can only be used when HP recovery special is active. Increased HP restoration and decreases HP recovery count by 1 when used, gains 1 count after 6 turns. The ultimate gauge reduced damage increases also increases damage based on own HP. Okay, I'm interested in the auto. This better be more than 1 time. So this auto is insanely good for protecting an ally 1 time currently in the game. I think it already says 3. I've already kind of read ahead, but death prevention to allies can be used up to 3 times in battle. Yo, that is good. That is good. Now you can prevent death 3 times in battle. That will be so good. Actually, he might be meta. That might be really, really useful in like Illusory Tower for keeping people alive. That's crazy. But he will prevent death for allies 3 times in a battle. Will deal more damage to Inamaki for each time he uses it. So keep that in mind. But added 3 counts of HP recovery special at the start of battle. That's kind of crazy. That's actually really, really good. That's insanely good. Then we have Yellow Mekamaru, skill 1, 150% to 240%. Skill 2, break damage 40% to 50%. Skill 3, break damage 120% to 250%. Taijutsu damage 180% to 220%. Jujutsu damage 127% to 180%. Ultimate, break damage 70% to 250%. So overall, to summarize, buffs to the percentage is for Yellow Mekamaru, who has yet to release on global, but basically he will be a lot stronger than you initially get him if you do end up pulling for him on global. The auto skill for him, when battle starts, increases break damage by 80%. When enemy is in break status, increases damage by 100%. When you break an opponent, increases damage by 150% for 3 turns. That could be a really big buff right there. 150% for 3 turns plus the extra 100% if they're in break status. That's a 250% damage increase. That's kind of good. That's kind of good. Okay, Mekamaru will be really, really interesting now. Then we have Junpei. Junpei is going to have a skill 1 right here. So now adds 3 turns of poison, increases the multiplier of poison for each use up to 15%. Skill 2, cursed energy cost from 30 down to 20, decreases all allies damage taken from 10% now up to 20%. That's big. It increases Jujutsu by 30% for 2 turns. Skill 3, cursed energy cost from 30 to 20, damage goes up to 350% now. Poison multiplier is massive increase. Now stacks for 4 turns, was 3 before. Oh my gosh, more uses, increases the poison effect by 30% for 4 turns, increases all enemies damage taken by 20% now. Oh my gosh, Junpei's looking good. Ultimate, damage goes from 799 to 950%, poison 192 to 360%. Oh my, they're cooking. They wanted Junpei to look good. And then note his skill 1, skill 3, and ult all mention something about increasing the poison percentage. I think basically just constant application applies more percentage of the poison. That would be insane. And then last but not least, besides the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 characters and red Maki, we have SR Toto. So his max curse energy was increased to 90, and his he got the auto skill as well of Zone State, where he gets 20% crit rate for 3 turns after performing a Black Flash. Very interesting. Okay, so interestingly enough, they already have the wiki updated for these 3 characters. So Maki, Yuta, and Geto, all of which are actually very hype characters. Probably the 3 most hype characters right now. So yeah, a lot of people have wanted this Maki to be good. It's time to find out. It's time to find out, guys. Is Maki actually going to be decent? So pre-adjustment, unable to recover or consume cursed energy. Nothing changed, okay, for post-adjustment there. Skill 1, we have a pre-adjustment, post-adjustment 1. Right now, we are in post-adjustment 1, nothing changed, right? Deals 100% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. Post-adjustment, they did increase the damage multiplier. So at max level, it used to be 150. Now it's up to 180%, so more damage for this Maki, which is good. Obviously, the skill doesn't require cursed energy. That is solid. Skill 2, pre-adjustment. Did we get any adjustments the first time? No. Okay. So deals 90% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy, decreases the selected enemy's damage by 30%. Now, post-adjustment, it's just a little bit more damage. Not much, just a slight bit more damage. Did anything else change? Not really. Okay, so 139.9% is now your max damage, and before it was 135%. I mean, that's okay. I hope they did really good with her auto skill and her ultimate. I hope they changed a lot there, but we'll see. Okay, so the pre-adjustment deals 70% taijutsu damage to all enemies. Post-adjustment 1, nothing. Now the new post-adjustment deals 149.6% taijutsu damage to all enemies. Cooldown of 2 turns. Interesting. So now it has a cooldown, but it is a big difference in damage. It's literally double the damage, more than double the damage this time around. So it's actually, I don't think that's a nerf. It's I don't know if that's kind of a net neutral, maybe a net positive, because you're at 149%. Otherwise you'd be at 140%. So it's actually a little bit more damage, but all in one burst, which technically I would say is a buff, because now if you're trying to get more damage in 1 turn, you can get that faster. However, you do have to wait 2 turns to use this skill again. So it's like, overall it's a buff. It's still a buff, okay? I'm gonna say it's a buff. Then we have the ultimate Dancing Cloud. So pre-adjustment deals 480% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy for 2 hits. Post-adjustment 1, nothing. post adjustment 2 deals 551%. So we went from 480 to 551. That is a big difference in damage. So now her ult is going to hit so much harder. So max now is 1099 and it used to be 959. Okay, so that will allow her to hit quite a bit harder. Now for the auto skills, I'm betting something changed here. So first adjustment, it did change a little bit. We went increases own taijutsu damage by 7% up to 15%. And now, oh my gosh, they changed it completely. So at the start of battle, increases own taijutsu damage by 15%. That's all it was for Heavenly Restriction. Now, Heavenly Restriction, at the start of battle, recovers own HP by 2% for each turn, reduces damage received by 8%. At the start of turn, increases own taijutsu damage. The more enemies in a wave, the greater the damage boost now, up to 123%. Yo! Okay, they cooked. They cooked with that. That is good. That is good. Now, did anything change from here? So we have Early Bird Gets the Worm. At the start of each wave, increases own taijutsu damage by 10%. That goes to, at the start of each wave, increases own taijutsu damage by 10%. And then also now increases own critical hit rate by 20%. This is good. The auto skills made that. The auto skills made it good. Okay, Maki, I think the auto skills may have saved her. I think she actually looks like a decent character now. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this to come to global now. Next up, we have Yuta. We have to talk about the boy. All right, so pre-adjustment, when Black Flash is performed, increases own Black Flash rate for 3 turns. Post-adjustment, nothing changed. His skill 1 is called Focus Your Cursed Energy. Deals 120% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. Now it's 175%. That is a massive damage boost between the two. At level 10 before, it was 180%. Now at level 10, it's 270%. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like 100 more almost. That's insane. That's really good. So his skill 1's going to do so much more damage. His skill 2, Cursed Speech, deals 90% jujutsu damage to all enemies, decreases all enemies' critical hit resist by 15%. Depending on own jujutsu and enemies' remaining HP, instantly kill the enemy. That changed, okay, quite a bit. Holy moly, there's a lot here. Okay, so the percentage went up first off. And then now, depending on how much cursed energy you have when the skill is activated, additionally increases your jujutsu damage by an additional 90%. So it's going to allow this skill to hit a lot harder as an AoE. That's really good. Oh my goodness. And then now it has a debuff on it as well. So it decreased enemies' critical hit resist by 15%. Now it increases all enemies' jujutsu damage received by 14%, which is arguably better. And then depending on how much cursed energy you have when the skill is activated, it increases jujutsu damage received up to 35%. Okay. That's really good. And then depending on own jujutsu and enemies' remaining HP, instantly kill the enemy. Yeah, this is actually a buff. This is a very, very good buff compared to what it was before. That's insane. And then skill 3, Let's Do This Together. Rika deals combined damage equal to 80% taijutsu and 110% jujutsu, 100% taijutsu and 150% jujutsu for 4 hits. I imagine the percentages just go up here. Yeah, the percentages literally just go up 81% from 110 to, actually that one went down 109.9. That one went to 104.4, so that went up. Jujutsu went up 150.2. It like very, very slight changes, but overall it's going to be about the same amount of damage. It just changed how the balancing was done between taijutsu and jujutsu. So that one, I wouldn't call that a buff. That's just like a change, right? And then we have the ultimate. It's Pure Love. Deals 1000% range jujutsu damage to all enemies. Increases taijutsu and jujutsu damage for 4 turns by 20%, and he can't fill his ultimate skill gauge. Now post adjustment, nothing changed. Okay, so that's good. That stayed the same. His ultimate was fine. And then auto skills. Did anything change between the auto skills? The first 2 did not. The only one that changed is the zone, because he didn't have a zone before. But now Yuta can enter the zone and increase his own jujutsu damage by 20% for 3 turns when Black Flash is performed. Okay. That's a lot of extra damage. That's going to be massive for him. And technically there was one slight adjustment to this, and I found it on the JP website. That's the only reason not this actually. It was this right here. I found it on the JP website. That's the only reason I know it. I don't think it was actually noted here, but there's a certain amount of times Rika can counter for you. And now there's going to be like a counter or a UI or something that tells you how many times she has left that she can end up countering for you. So that's going to help out a little bit with people wondering like why Rika stops countering for you. She does have a set limit, I guess, on how many times she can counter, at least from what I read to my understanding. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then last but not least, we have Geto. I am super excited for Geto. Saved him for last because I know not a lot of people have him, but I have really enjoyed this character's like design and kit, and I think he's a great character. So, pre-adjustment at the start of each turn, recovers own cursed energy by 20. Nothing changed there. His skill 1 special grade curse tool, Playful Cloud, deals 120.1% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. The higher your energy is, the higher the critical hit rate boost. And now that has changed a lot. Okay, so he increases his own critical hit rate by 5% now. The higher his cursed energy, the greater the critical hit rate boost, up to 65%. Okay, deals 120% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy, depending on how much cursed energy you have when the skill is activated. Additionally, increases your damage by another 60%. He's going to hit so much harder now. And then increases own jujutsu damage by 15% for 3 turns if own cursed energy is 60 or above. So he can self-buff on his skill 1 now. Oh my gosh. Yo, massive buffs. Massive buffs for Geto. And then pre-adjustment skill 2 deals 181.5% range jujutsu damage to the selected enemy for 3 hits. This is a skill a lot of people used on him because he was used as a buffer character more so than a attacker character like he's supposed to be, right? So, if own cursed energy is 30 or above, decreases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 25%, and if own cursed energy is 40 or above, increases their jujutsu damage received by 25%. Now, he does more damage to the selected enemy for 3 hits, which is the same, and then decreases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 28% for 3 hits. Depending on your own cursed energy, you can decrease their damage even more, up to 35%, and then increases the selected enemy's jujutsu damage received by 25%. Depending on your own cursed energy, it can go up to 50%. Yo, oh my gosh, guys. 50% boost in jujutsu damage to the enemy? He might be the one. That's actually insane. That's so good. And then skill 3, Curse Spirit Manipulation. Pre-adjustment deals 70% range jujutsu damage to all enemies. Post-adjustment increases own oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. The higher your curse energy, the more damage you did. Okay. Now, increases own damage by 10%. Period, 1 time, depending on how much cursed energy you have when the skill is activated. Increases damage by up to 100%. And then it deals 100% range jujutsu damage to all enemies, so the percentage is higher. Increases all enemies damage received by 10% for 3 turns. That's big, up to 30%. So if you ult with him before ulting with another attacker, they're going to take an extra 30% damage if they go after him. That's so good. Geto might be he might be the big winner here, honestly. At the end of the day, for his skill 3, did I say that? I don't think I said that was his ultimate. I was kind of thinking it there. That's just a skill 3. That's a big buff. That's such a massive buff to that character. Oh my gosh, now his ultimate. Curse Spirit Manipulation, Maximum Uzumaki, deals 200% range jujutsu damage to all enemies. The higher your own cursed energy is, the greater the damage boost. Reduces own cursed energy to 0 when ultimate skill is performed. Okay, fine. Now post adjustment, increases own damage by 20% 1 time. Depending on how much cursed energy you have, increases damage by up to 200%. Okay, and your max cursed energy is 60. Okay. If I'm reading that right, max increase at 60 cursed energy. Yeah, that's your max increase. So that's not even that high. That's not that much cursed energy to get, guys. I don't think you realize that's not hard to reach. And then deals 382% range jujutsu damage to all enemies and increases own jujutsu damage by 30%. Yeah, I said if you use this before an ultimate, right? I was thinking if you use his going back to this point, man, my brain's all over the place. It's early in the morning, but I think I said if you use this ultimate before another character's ultimate, it does a lot more damage. But same thing. Use this skill 3 before another character's ultimate, and this is actually an insane buff. Sorry, going back to the main point. Deals 382% range jujutsu damage to all enemies, increases own jujutsu damage by 30%. It's okay, just permanently? That's the way I'm reading that. It can't be stacked, so it's like 1 time, but like still. Okay. And then reduce his own cursed energy by 16 when ultimate skills perform. So in other words, it goes back to 0. And it still reduces your cursed energy if your energy bar is unfilled. So it'll put you in the negative, maybe? Or does it put you to 0? Interesting. Okay, he still seems a lot better though. Like insanely better. So we had absorption here where he recovered some stuff. Nothing changed for the auto skill. Okay, so that's fine. But yeah, absolutely looking insane. I think Geto's the winner. Let me know down in the comments, which character do you think received the biggest buff? Which character do you think is going to benefit the most? Make your argument down in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button and hitting that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel. Peace.